Hey, I'm Jess from JessDickerson.com, and I'm a certified life coach. I help women deal with stress and overwhelm so they can get control of their lives. Today we're going to be talking about how to overcome perfectionism, so stick around. Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about perfectionism. I'm going to talk about what perfectionism looks like, what the symptoms are, and what some methods are for getting over perfectionism. Have you ever wanted a project to be perfect so much that you couldn't even start? Is the reason that you couldn't start because you wanted it to end up perfectly or because you were actually afraid to fail? That's what perfectionism is. It's not so much the desire for the project to be perfect, it's the fear of failing and what will happen if it's not perfect. One of the biggest issues that we deal with perfectionism is that it's viewed as a positive trait. So many people encourage others to be perfect. They talk about perfectionism like it's a good thing. Oh, she's such a little perfectionist, isn't it great? No, it's not. People that suffer with perfectionism will tell you that it's not a good trait. In fact, that it's actually really stressful and really debilitating, and a lot of times it prevents them from getting anything that they want in life. There is a hardcore fear of failure that underlies perfectionism that makes it so difficult to get past. People that deal with perfectionism struggle so deeply with the fear of not being good enough that they can't even get started, which means they don't learn and they don't get better. So they never really are going to be good enough because they're not practicing. Perfectionism doesn't have to be this debilitating, whole life encompassing thing that you deal with every minute of every day to be plaguing you. So just because you're not struggling with it and it's not ruining your entire life doesn't mean that you're not dealing with perfectionism. When it comes to perfectionism, there's actually three kinds of perfectionism. There's the desire for your own stuff to be perfect. There's the belief that other people want your stuff to be perfect. And there's the desire for other people's stuff to be perfect. There are four major symptoms of perfectionism. The first one is black and white or extreme thinking. The best example of this is a cookie and a diet. The belief that you did really great all day, but then you had a cookie, so it was ruined. You might as well just jump off the wagon, burn it in the woods, and eat whatever you want because today wasn't perfect, so what's the point? The way to get past this is to picture all of the healthy things that you did do for yourself today and realize that the cookie is just a drop in the bucket compared to all of the healthy things that you have been doing to take care of yourself. And then you can just let it go. If you get a flat, do you go and slash the other three tires? Of course not. But that's what perfectionist black and white thinking will get you. It's the belief that if you do one thing wrong, then none of it was worth it, which is completely not true. The next symptom of perfectionism is having impossible standards. Of course, high standards are a great thing. If you want something to be considered and deliberate and be up to your expectations, that's great. But wanting everything to be perfect down to the last detail, that's an impossible standard. And if you won't let anyone do anything as part of the project because it won't be up to your standards, that's perfectionism. That can actually be all three kinds of perfectionism manifesting at once. The desire for your stuff to be perfect, feeling like everybody else expects you to be perfect, and feeling like what you want from everyone else needs to be perfect. These are the true micromanagers of the world, and if you feel like you can't let go of any part of a project for fear that it won't turn out the way you want it to, there's perfectionism underneath that. To get past this, it's time to stop focusing on success versus failure and start focusing on what you're going to learn from the project. Not everything needs to be a win for it to be successful. You could lose every single match of a basketball game and still be winning because you're improving your skills so much. There's no reason why every project has to be completely perfect in order to provide results. Another symptom of perfectionism is having trouble starting or finishing projects. Why would you ever begin a project if you felt like it had to be perfect but you didn't have the ability to make it perfect? What a huge waste of time and energy. Then there are people that start projects but can never finish them. This is because they're belaboring every point, every detail, and they're just afraid to put it out into the world until it's perfect, which of course it will never be. The way to overcome this is to give yourself a deadline. It doesn't matter whether the project is perfect to the level that you want it to be. As long as you have a deadline, you know that when that comes up, it's done and it's time to move on. Focus on what the project needs to be complete, not perfect. The point is to start the project, work on the project, complete the project, and learn from the project. Not to not start it or not finish it because it's not perfect, so what's the point? If you're struggling getting started or moving forward, just focus on the small steps that you need to do next. We're not talking about the big picture here. Literally, what is the very next thing that you need to do to move forward? Then go do that and then repeat. The last symptom of perfectionism I'm going to talk about is relying on your accomplishments for validation. Of course, it feels good to have other people tell you you did a good job, but those things are not required for you to be successful or confident. Those feelings come from within. Outside validation is great, but it's not consistent and it's not objective. These are not ways for you to tell whether you're improving or not. You could turn in a project that's great, but if your boss is having a really bad day, maybe they don't give you the feedback that you were hoping for. Then, if you're a perfectionist, this can become even more debilitating because the whole reason that you worked so hard on the project was to get the validation, and then here you didn't get what you were hoping for. Instead of focusing on trying to make something perfect, focus on things that can be accurately measured and be objective. Literally something you could plot on a chart so that you can see whether you're improving or not. By plotting something out on a chart, you can actually see your accomplishments over time. This gives you a better sense of whether you're improving or not instead of waiting for somebody else's subjective validation that may or may not come. If you're struggling to start a project, to finish a project, or you're just stuck in general, take a look at the reasons that you're not moving forward. Is it really that you want it to be super successful, or is it that you're actually just afraid to fail? If you're afraid of failure, take a look at how you're thinking about the project. Are you thinking in black and white, success or failure, win or lose? Are you struggling with impossible standards? Are you just looking for the validation that will come at the end of this project? If you find that perfectionism is underneath your fear of failure, then use these tips anytime you feel like you're stuck. Then you can take the tiny steps that will help you to move forward, that will actually help you accomplish the big project that you're working on. Hey everybody, thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for your weekly dose of confidence, motivation, and stress relief. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, go ahead down to the show notes and I'll have a link there for the blog post that I wrote about this topic. There's also a link for you to go ahead and sign up for my newsletter and a place where you can contact me if you're interested in coaching with me. Thanks everybody and see you next time. Perfectionism. This is what happened. It is a complete fear of fail. If you get a flat, do you go around and slash the other 3 tires and feel like you are...